Howdy, it's Jim Arado, and in late March of this year, 2021, we went to Mitchell, Indiana to check out some of the Gus Grissom memorials and museums that they have around town. Here's a nice big memorial that is in Mitchell, and it just looks pretty cool. It was a little bit out of the way, though. We kind of accidentally stumbled across it. But over at the state park in town, the Spring Mill State Park, they have a nice museum that's dedicated to Gus Grissom, and that's us pulling up to it right now. And there's a little flyer I picked up. Yeah, taped. I probably taped just about everything you could see in the museum, and I think I've recorded for about 13 minutes. Yeah, there's some of the brochures. I'll read to you from the brochure provided at the museum. And it mentions that Virgil Grissom was born April 3rd, 1926 in Mitchell, Indiana, the oldest of 4 children. In 1944, he graduated from Mitchell High School. Motivated by a strong interest in technology and aircraft construction, he completed 1 year of pre-cadet training in the U.S. Army Air Corps. Grissom was inducted into the Air Corps in August 1944 and discharged in November with the rank of corporal. Grissom went on to study at Purdue University, graduating in February 1950 with a degree in mechanical engineering. He joined the United States Air Force and was commissioned as second lieutenant in March 1951. In December of that year, Grissom shipped overseas to fight in the Korean War. Grissom flew 100 missions with the 334th Fighter Interceptor Squadron in less than 6 months and received the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal. When he returned from Korea, Grissom was assigned to the Air Force Institute of Technology at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, Ohio. He then transferred to the Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Grissom specialized in checking out advanced designed fighter planes. He logged more than 4,600 hours as an airplane pilot, 3,500 hours in jet aircraft. In April 1959, the National Air and Space Administration, NASA, announced the selection of the country's first 7 astronauts. Gus Grissom was part of the elite group that would become known as the Mercury 7. The goal of Project Mercury was to place a manned spacecraft in orbit and return that spacecraft safely to Earth. As part of Project Mercury, Gus Grissom became America's second man in space on July 21st, 1961, and a capsule named the Liberty Bell 7. A successful flight was followed by a dramatic ending when the capsule was lost at sea after splashdown. Although Grissom himself was safely retrieved from the water, the mishap forced NASA to rethink its recovery techniques. Grissom's next assignment was to oversee the design and then to command the first manned mission of the Gemini Program. The 2 primary goals of the Gemini series were to launch a 2-man capsule designed to maneuver and work in space, and to test plans, techniques, and equipment needed for a landing on the moon. On March 23, 1965, the Gemini 3 launched with Grissom at the helm in a capsule he christened the Molly Brown. The flight lasted 5 hours and flew nearly 81,000 miles around the Earth, completing 3 orbits. During the voyage, Grissom made history again as the first person to ever control and change the path of a spacecraft while in orbit. The final steps needed to prepare for a successful manned lunar landing were undertaken during the Apollo program. The ultimate goal of Apollo was to launch a spacecraft on a path to the moon, using the weak lunar gravity to slingshot the spacecraft to the moon and then back to Earth. In February 1966, Virgil Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were chosen as the crew for the Apollo 1 mission. On January 27, 1967, during a test on the launch pad, a flash fire broke out inside the command module. Grissom, White, and Chaffee were trapped inside, unable to escape the blaze. Virgil Grissom, Mitchell's hometown hero, was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And then it goes on a little bit on the back. The memorial is a tribute to a hometown hero, astronaut Virgil I. Gus Grissom, a native of Mitchell, Indiana. Grissom was a pioneer in the United States space program. After the tragedy of Apollo 1, the Indiana General Assembly promptly enacted legislation to create the Grissom Memorial. Spring Mill State Park was selected as the location for the memorial due to its proximity to Mitchell and the availability of land. The Indiana Department of Natural Resources sought a distinctive design to symbolize the desire to explore space. The department insisted that all of the items in the memorial be actual artifacts or authentic representations of Grissom's life. The original exhibits are on loan from the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum and may be periodically replaced with new material. The Grissom Memorial was officially dedicated on July 21, 1971, 10 years after Grissom's first flight into space. And yeah, that's some heavy stuff. He literally believed in what he was doing so much that he did sacrifice his life to be a part of space exploration. And one thing that I love about this museum, I don't want to end on a bad note here because there's so much positive in this area with Gus Grissom and at this nice little museum. That's the real deal. You're looking at the actual spacecraft, the Molly Brown, part of the Gemini 3. That's not a replica. That's what they used, and that's kind of a big deal that here in very small town southern Indiana, it's there. Obviously along with spacesuit gloves and other very special relics from NASA, from Gus Grissom and his family. It's just kind of an amazing thing to see in this neat little town, and it surely adds a lot of value to go into the Spring Mill State Park here. Not only do they have one cool state park with caves and a pioneer village, thinking about the past and all, but they've also got this pretty mind-blowing museum dedicated to Gus Grissom, and that's kind of a big deal. I know the first time we went to Mitchell a couple of years ago, you're getting a whole lot for your money in one little area, and this is not even an hour or so from Louisville. Not that far from Indianapolis either. But yeah, here's a little town, a nice rural, small town where you can really just see a whole lot. And that is really, really cool. It kind of makes this just an epic location to visit, in my opinion. And as you can see, it is kind of, as far as museums go, it is small, but there's just a whole lot going on with it. It's really just a couple of big rooms, but the items held in these two rooms are just, just so impressive. There is a small gift shop. I didn't film it, but there's a small gift shop when you exit, and they have some space patches and things like that, and then other knickknacks relating to the park in Indiana. It's a nice little gift shop. And then just a mile or so from here, if that, is the State Park Lodge, and I'll put up a video about that later. And then within the state park, you've got several nice walking trails, a cave, and just a really, really nice pioneer village. And I'll put up some videos and all of those later. But yeah, this little museum is right next to the entrance to the main state park. It's parallel with where you pay your money to get into the park. I think it's $9 a car to get in if you're from out of state. I think that's what we paid. Real quick, just because I'm interested in this, there's a sign in the museum about Gemini 3 and the Molly Brown. And it says the Gemini 3 mission was the first manned flight using the two-person Gemini spacecraft. Gus Grissom was the mission commander. John Young was the pilot. There's some names. Naming the Molly Brown After his near drowning following the Mercury Liberty Bell 7 touchdown, Grissom christened his new craft the Molly Brown. Margaret Molly Brown was a heroic survivor of the Titanic disaster and often referred to as the unsinkable Molly Brown. Grissom's reference to the incident embarrassed NASA officials. Astronauts were afterwards prohibited from naming their spacecraft. The Gusmobile. Having completed his Mercury mission, Grissom became actively involved in Gemini. Grissom spent countless hours in the prototype capsule, offering ideas and modifications. His fellow astronauts began referring to the Gemini spacecraft as the Gusmobile. And I just think that's just darn exciting. And, when you go visit this place, because you should if you're any sort of a road tripper, this should be a must visit on your list, just because of all that is in this very small little area. There's just a lot going on here, and as you can tell, I'm kind of obsessed with this right here. It's it's just so darn impressive, and it's so exciting standing next to it. But yeah, when you go here, it's just exciting that it was while we were here, it was my wife and I were in the museum by ourselves for a while. There was another lady in there with us for a couple of minutes when we first got there. Then she left, and then another family came in after we had been there for a while. So it's just exciting, standing next to these holy relics, really, and just getting to look at them and know their stories, and to think about Gus Grissom's personal story and the sacrifice he made. And as you can see, there are a ton of signs and interpretive markers kind of telling you what's going on with a lot of these items that we've skipped over, but you could spend an hour or two just reading those signs. The things that impressed me the most, I love the Purdue University ID card of Grissom's and the stub from the football game. Also, I love the hat with the LBJ connection. There's just so many neat items here that tell so many stories, and you can stop and admire every single one of them. Of course, having actual items that have been to space, and ID badges for NASA projects and things like that is exciting also. But yeah, like I said, the museum and the trails, the Pioneer Village, the caves. There's so much to do here at Spring Mill State Park. Yeah, again, you can easily spend a day or 2 days here. I'll flag from the funeral. There's so much to do here, and this is just such a great park in southern Indiana. If you're in that neck of the woods, you've really got something special here. Other great towns nearby, there's Salem, Indiana. Corydon, I think, is within an hour or so from there. Other great historic towns with a lot going on. Southern Indiana is really just a cool kind of secret that a lot of people don't know about. But I think if they did a little research, they would be impressed. Oh, lots of caves too. I forgot about that. I could go on and on. But so I hope you enjoyed looking at the Gus Grissom Museum in Spring Mill State Park, Mitchell, Indiana with me.